So a couple weeks ago, I was riding over to Otis's house, the owner of Dirty River, to drop off his Gunner rock tour that I had borrowed, made a little video about, and rode for a couple weeks. Really cool bike. When I was getting ready to leave, I was just going to walk home. We live fairly close. He was like, "Hey, you should take this." He had this full suspension Salsa Cassidy demo bike. They were going to be doing a shop mountain bike ride demo type thing, changing up bikes and trying different stuff. And he was like, "I have a couple days before that if you want to try it out." So I rode it home. My goal was to get it out to Hampton Hills. That is the mountain bike trails that I'm comfortable riding on my steel gravel bike, no suspension, obviously, 42 millimeter tires. So I wanted to get it out there and kind of compare it to that. Just with work and everything, I ran out of time. And so the day before I had to get it back to him, I rode to the bike shop and met up with my buddy Ben. And then we rode some industrial gravel over to Honda Hills, which is like a mini mountain bike trail, unofficial trails, rat trails there in a lot of my videos. I figured that would be at least a good test to get a feeling compared to what, I'm used to riding. So riding to the shop, the bike really wasn't that bad. You kind of think a full suspension mountain bike is going to feel like a total dog on the road. If you don't know my history, I rode a hardtail with front suspension from the early 2000s for most, a long time. That was just my primary bike. So riding the bike didn't feel that weird. Definitely much wider bars on a more modern mountain bike than I ever had. And so that was kind of unique, but didn't feel bad. I had the rear suspension locked out riding on the road, which obviously makes sense. And as long as I didn't stand up, it felt fine. I didn't look up all the travel numbers for this bike because they really don't mean anything to me, someone who doesn't ride with any suspension. But when you stood up, then you definitely feel that bouncing around. And it reminds me, since I was always riding my mountain bike on the road, or 80%, 90% of the time, why I switched to a rigid steel fork on that bike back in the day. But so I got to the shop, and when we started riding the gravel trails, it was interesting. I still had this rear suspension locked out for riding the gravel to the more gnarly up and down, rooty trails with rocks and stuff. I really expected it to feel like it was just kind of sailing over everything, but I guess it just shows that's why, suspension bikes are not gravel bikes. It's just a different beast. And I also had the weird experience of when I needed to pick up the bars to go over like some of the railroad ties or railroad tracks. Just the way the front kind of goes down and digs in, when you're not used to it, it just kind of throws you off. And instead of inspiring confidence, made me a little less confident just because I didn't know how it's going to handle. So again, this is not a review of, having suspension on any kind of bikes. It was just my experience and how it feels being someone completely not used to it. So I know that people who do mountain bike, you kind of could put pressure down onto the fork preloaded and then bounce it up. But again, that's a skill you learn that I just don't have. And I had that in the back of my mind and just wasn't executing in the moment. Anyway, so yeah, rode the gravel out there. I did start to feel like the bike was taking me out of it at that point, like just taking it out of me, not taking me out of it. Then we got to the trails, and that's where it's funny because I just expected, I unlocked the rear suspension, and I just expected the bike to completely, inspire confidence in everything I was doing. I thought it would just be like not even thinking about it. I've ridden people's fat bikes, and that's just rigid fat bikes, and all of a sudden you just have the wider tires. And besides the strange getting used to the handling of a really fat tire when you're steering, I feel like it just instantly adds confidence. I did not feel like that with the full suspension bike. And I don't think it's not because it wouldn't do that over time. I think it's because when you're just totally not used to it, the feel of the bike is so different. I'm so used to completely rigid bikes where I know when my tire starts to slip what that means, And on this one, it would start to give in a corner or give going over the rough stuff. I just expected it to feel completely smooth, and I would just feel totally fast. And it was kind of the opposite, that I felt like I don't know what this bike's doing, and I feel weird and a lack of confidence. So yeah, it was just kind of a unique experience. Like I said, I wish I kind of got it, and it just shows too, they're made for a specific purpose. They're not made for someone who's never rid one to go ride it on weird off-road stuff. But it did really kind kind of throw me in what my expectations were. I really do wish I got it out to Hampton to like go like, you know, Hampton is a long downhill into the valley at first, so you kind of get to go down and go around all the curves. I still feel like the squish would have thrown me a little bit, but I wonder in spots where I had chance to build up more speed as it was running over some rough stuff, if that would have like would have had that effect right away of giving me a little bit more like stable footing confidence, or if it would have been the same thing where I was like, I just don't know how to use this yet or know how it should feel. So again, like I said, this is not a review of this bike. I'm not a serious mountain biker. I've never ridden anything with full suspension. It's just kind of the experience of someone who took one out and just went and rode it, and that's what it feels like first thing. I just wish I had more time to get used to it and to have seen what would happen. So I'll have to try a bike like this again. You know, I do have some friends who have one, and you know, if the shop does another demo day, we were going off on our big trip to do a tour, which will be the next video, so I just didn't have time to even go to their shop ride and try some of the stuff out. But yeah, then so riding home from the trails, I did a long, like not long, but few mile gravel ride home, and I left the suspension unlocked this time on the way home. And again, I just felt like it was tiring me out. Like I was going a little slower and it was tiring out more than it would, which again, I don't believe this is what this bike is made for. So it's like over biking on gravel as opposed to my usual under biking on everything I do or a lot of the stuff we do. So it was totally a unique experience, interesting to get out and just do a totally different kind of bike, a bike I've never ridden before, a type of bike I've never ridden before. And then, but of course, doing it in the Fitzwater cycles way, I did it in the completely wrong way on the completely wrong terrain, I think. But, you know, another place that I was thinking is where we just went camping a little while ago at Camp Tuscazor, where I was completely underbiked on those mountain bike trails with my rigid gravel bike. I feel like that would be a really cool place to try it out, where stuff like on the climbs out there, I couldn't keep traction when there were roots and stuff. Like I was trying to go uphill and I would like have to put a foot down because I just can't get smoothly enough up the stuff. So it'd be interesting to see a bike like this climbing like that. The other thing too with this bike is the gearing was so much easier than anything I have. There were some hills at Honda Hills that I was able to like get up by just, you know, really, really spinning, whereas I have to like really grind it out on some of my other bikes. And that's why also on my Marin build that I've put together lately, I do want to get a different rear cassette, so I kind of have some of those easy gears when I need them. But it was also interesting to see, and I meant to take a picture and I forgot, that Salsa sitting next to my Marin. And even though I've built the Marin not in its original configuration, but just to see what a cross-country mountain bike from the 90s looked like sitting next to the Salsa Cassidy, it was, you know, it's so dramatic, as you probably already could picture in your head. But that's it for this video. Just a fun little experiment. I just want to repeat one more time, it's not a condemnation of this bike or full suspension bikes. I know I didn't give it a fair chance. So I will see you in the next one. Check out the swag shop below if you want to support the channel, become a channel member, or yeah, just watch these videos. See you in the next one.